it looks like Lisa raised her hand.
Sure. Let me stop this wonderful here. Just on the chat that she's good. But that was perfect timing. We can go ahead and get started. We have a lot to get into this evening, and I want to make sure we stay on time as much as possible. So first, welcome everyone to the volunteer training for the Southern Nevada Urban Heat Island Mapping Campaign. My name's Paul Gully. I'm with the RTC of Southern Nevada, which is one of the lead agencies on this project. And again, I want to thank you for joining tonight and for your interest in this project. Before we get into things, as you join, would you mind typing your name in the chat? So first and last name and email address, and then let us know how you heard about the project, whether it was a friend or a family member or some of the news coverage or an email from a partner. Let us know how you heard about it. And the chat button, I think, is at the bottom right of your screen, if it's not open by default. So before we get started, just a little housekeeping. So first we ask that you stay on mute if you're not speaking or asking a question, just to try and limit some of the background noise. Feel free to use the chat throughout the meeting to ask questions. So Deb Reardon and Almendra Johnson will be monitoring the chat. Feel free to connect with other attendees or share information in it too. And we'll have several opportunities to do a Q&A throughout this meeting. So we'll be sure to answer all your questions. If you're joining by phone, I think there are a few folks joining by phone. You're automatically placed on mute when you join. So to unmute during the Q&A sessions, you'll need to hit *6. And most of you have your cameras
really unmuted.
Great. If you don't and you're comfortable turning it on, please do. We'd love to see who we're talking to today, but I know pressure if you'd rather.
Temporarily unmuted.
All right, if you're having any technical issues with audio or video or need some help with WebEx, feel free to reach out to Deb Reardon either through the chat or via email or by phone. Her contact information here is on the screen. If you're joining by phone, you can reach her at 702-676-1721. Her email address is reardond@rtcsmb.com. And she will, I'm confident, get you sorted out. And just a reminder, and this was more of a reminder for me to make sure I hit record, but this meeting's being recorded. We'll be posting it on, we'll be posting a recording of this meeting on our project webpage within 48 hours for those who couldn't attend today, or for you guys, if you missed something or have to jump off early for any reason, you'll be able to view the meeting within 48 hours on our project page. Right, so let's go ahead and get things started. We're just going to do some quick intros here. Again, I'm Paul Gully. I'm a senior regional planner at the RTC of Southern Nevada. I'm one of the lead organizers for the Southern Nevada project, along with Almendra and Joey. And Almendra, did you notice if Joey jumped on? He's here. Okay, Joey, I'm going to make you a co-host. There you go. So yeah, along with Joey and Almendra, I'm one of the lead organizers here, and we are excited to have you all join us. Almendra, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure, yeah. My name's Almendra Johnson. I'm with Get Outdoors Nevada. We're a local nonprofit that connects people to their outdoor spaces, and we do a lot of volunteer events at our local parks and trails, and we're excited to be a project partner.
And Joey?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Joey Williams. I'm the program manager for the Kappa Heat Watch program. I have helped to run this program in over 60 cities across the US and internationally. So I just want to say a quick word of thanks for being here and spending your time and energy on this. Do this without you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You're cutting in and out a little bit, but we got you.
Okay. Just want to say do this without you.
Great, thanks, Joey. Not pictured here on the slide, but definitely helping out with this meeting as a co-host and part of the project team is Deb Reardon. She is a transportation planning manager here at the RTC. And Almendra, is Rachel on?
She is.
I saw her. Great. So Rachel Berggren is also joining us. She is on the project team. She is the executive director of Get Outdoors Nevada. And I did see a few other project partners on as well. I think there are a few folks from the city of Henderson and the city of Las Vegas. Sorry if I missed anyone, but again, thank you all for joining. We're so excited to kind of get things started with this project. If you just joined us, could you please type your name in the chat? So first and last name, and then include your email address, and let us know how you heard about this project, whether it was through some of the news coverage or from a friend or family member or a partner organization. We'd love to know how you heard about the project. So here's just kind of a quick rundown of what we're going to cover today during this training. First, we're going to give you a little bit of background on the project and why it's important, and provide a general overview of heat mapping campaigns. And then we'll play a training video that's somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes long that'll provide a little more detail about the project and the specifics of what happens on the campaign day and what volunteers will be doing to capture all the data that's going to be used. Then we'll get into the specifics of our campaign, the Southern Nevada campaign, talk you through the logistics and some of the next steps, and then we'll leave about 15 minutes at the end to do Q&A, and there's some built-in time earlier as well for you all to ask questions. All right, so let's get into why this work's important and what we're hoping to address with this project and other related efforts and studies going on in the region. So this shouldn't be news to anyone, but it's hot here. We have one of the hottest climates in the country, and we also have one of the fastest warming climates in the country, and it's only expected to continue getting hotter in the coming decades. So this next graphic kind of illustrates this rather succinctly. This is a timeline that shows you the number of 100-degree days, first in 2020, then going back 50 years to 1970, and finally 50 years into the future in 2070. So again, all of this illustrates is that it's hot here, it's gotten hotter, and it's expected to continue to get hotter. And 100-degree days are really just part of the equation. What's also noteworthy is that the number of days with lows below 80 degrees are decreasing rather drastically. So in the late 90s and early 2000s, our region experienced between 50 and 75 days per year with lows below 80. And 5 of the past 6 years, we haven't topped 30. So not only is it getting hotter here, but we're also experiencing less relief. And so why is this important? Why do we care about this? Well, we know that increasing temperatures in the region are associated with and contribute to a host of negative impacts.
Unmute.
None of which is more important than... Sorry, I'm getting some feedback here. Let me just put everyone on mute. So in terms of the negative impacts, none are more important than the toll extreme heat takes on human health. So local studies have found that there's a clear link between increasing temperatures and increasing heat-related deaths and hospitalizations. So between 2016 and 2018, there were roughly 1,000 serious heat-related health incidents in our region, more than 600 hospital visits and ER visits, and more than 300 fatalities. And these numbers are almost certainly an undercount due to the way the data is captured. And I actually just got some updated numbers to share. I added this graph this morning, and not surprisingly, these numbers have only gotten worse since 2018. So this is the total number of heat-related fatalities in the region, looking at both non-homeless deaths and homeless deaths. And in 2021 alone, there were nearly 250 heat-related fatalities in the region. And so what are we doing about this? What's our region doing about this? What's encouraging is that there's a lot of focus and attention on this locally, and there has been now for a few years. The county recently launched a heat resources website, staycoolclarkcounty.com. At the RTC, we just received a federal grant to look at innovative bus shelter design to provide riders with more safety and comfort and respite from the heat. Tree canopy expansion is a huge priority of all of our jurisdictional partners here. And there's a lot of work being done at the state level with additional workplace protections. The governor established an extreme heat planning team. So these are just kind of a few current examples, and certainly not an exhaustive list. But this urban heat island mapping campaign is just another example of an effort that is looking to address extreme heat. So earlier this year, we were notified by NOAA that we were one of 16 locations selected to participate in its 2022 Urban Heat Island Mapping Campaign. NOAA is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So this year there were 14 locations selected in the US and then 2 international locations. And through this project, we'll be able to see where it's hottest in our regions, in which neighborhoods specifically, which is important information because it can help us inform future efforts that are aimed at mitigating urban heat, addressing heat-related health incidents, and addressing the inequitable distribution of heat across our valley. And so what's also encouraging about all of this is that much of the work that's being done is being done collaboratively. And this project exemplifies this also. So these are all the project partners that are involved. We've also had help from countless other stakeholders like the National Weather Service.
You're talking about why they're doing it. Well, that's usually how meetings start.
The governor's heat planning team, and the Nevada Minority Health and Equity Coalition. So again, this is a truly regional effort. So I want to take a quick pause here and see if there are any questions about what we've covered thus far. We'll be getting into the specifics of our mapping campaign in a minute. So I'm going to ask you to hold any questions about the our campaign here until a bit later, but any questions about what we just covered? No? All right, let's keep moving then. So let's get to this volunteer training video. This video is required viewing for anyone who's going to be taking part in the campaign. There's a knowledge check quiz that all participants need to pass in order to take part in the campaign. And the questions are based on this video. So the video's a bit longer than 15 minutes and kind of provides an overview of the heat mapping campaigns. It explains what urban heat islands are, and then gets into specifics of what volunteers can expect on campaign day. in terms of using the equipment and driving the routes. And then after the video, we'll get into some more specifics about our campaign and what we're looking at. Joey, is there anything else you want to include in this intro?
No, I think that covers it, Paul, and yeah, any technical questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Maybe save those for we'll cover a lot of material.
Great. So hang tight here. Again, this video is roughly 15 minutes long, and then we will be back to talk more about our campaign and answer all your questions.
Hello, and welcome to the Kappa Heat Watch volunteer training video. Thank you for participating and taking the time to learn about the first step in safeguarding your region from heat waves. Heat Watch has been performed in dozens of cities around the world, with more emerging every year. You, as a volunteer, are the core of this effort, and it couldn't happen without your active participation. In this video, we'll be covering the essentials of a heat campaign, including the logistics for you as a volunteer and data collector. These steps include preparation, activation, execution, and follow-up of your campaign. After viewing this video, you will be asked to complete a short knowledge check quiz, so be sure to pay attention to your role. If you missed something, you can always go back and view the video at any time while taking the quiz. There will also be a volunteer release of liability waiver linked in the knowledge check that all volunteers must complete before participating in a heat campaign. The liability waiver simply states that you are participating at your own free will and that you will do your best to follow all the instructions. Kappa Strategies, which stands for Climate Adaptation Planning and Analytics, is a global consulting group that works with community groups to better prepare places for the impact of climate change-induced hazards. Kappa's flagship service, the Heat Watch campaign, is a volunteer-based program aimed at better understanding urban heat islands and how they contribute to the overall distribution of heat in cities. Outcomes from these campaigns have been instrumental in informing actions to improve public and environmental health. Many of you may already be familiar with the urban heat island effect, and here is a quick primer. High-energy radiation coming from the sun is absorbed by materials we use to build our cities. Some materials, like concrete, asphalt, and roadways, absorb the sun's radiation and release it slowly, making certain areas of cities hotter during the day and keeping them from cooling off completely at night. Other features of cities, like parks, streams, light-colored surfaces, also absorb the sun's radiation, though are quick to transform it or reflect it away. These areas are generally cooler areas, though many other factors also play into your experience of temperatures in each neighborhood. What areas of your region are hotter and cooler? Lots of people have been trying to understand the distribution of heat, though we currently lack higher resolution or finer grain detail descriptions of what each of us feels as we move about our places. As temperatures rise in cities around the world, this is becoming a burning question. How are our infrastructure, environment, and people affected differently by this rising heat, and what can we do about it? You may have seen satellite-derived images that describe differences in heat across your region. While these are helpful for seeing differences, they are generally coarse descriptions consisting of rooftops and surface temperatures, which is not what we might experience in these areas. Our method of near-surface or ground-based measurements uses a combination of actual air temperatures that you collect and incorporates adjacent land cover types to more closely describe the heat we feel in much greater detail than satellites can currently provide. The on-the-ground method involves collecting tens of thousands, or in some cases, hundreds of thousands, of individual measurements of temperature and humidity simultaneously across urban areas at 3 times throughout a high heat, no rain day. Collecting information across these timeframes helps us understand how heat distribution changes throughout the day and night. This essential phase of data collection is where your participation begins. Heat campaign volunteers drive or bicycle with highly sensitive instruments along pre-planned routes or traverses to collect these measurements. More on this later. These data points are then fed into our machine learning algorithms that examine the surrounding land cover of each data point and produce a visual model of the temperature and heat index across the entire region. Take a minute and consider, Where in your neighborhood always seems especially hot on high-temperature summer days? What about cool? Where would you go outside to cool off on a hot day? Why are they cooler or hotter? What aspects of that space make them more or less comfortable? Great! You're thinking like a climate scientist already. With the context set, let's next get into the details of the campaign and the important roles you'll play in helping to identify hotter and cooler spots across your region. Step 1. Prepare. The step you're now beginning as part of this training is prepare. Here, you'll learn about the polygons and routes. In order to map heat across an entire region, your campaign's overall study area has been split into multiple sub-areas, or polygons, as we'll refer to them. Each of these polygons contains a diverse set of land covers, such as parks, commercial centers, residential developments, and schools. Because the particular land cover at a location strongly influences the amount of heat that is felt there, collecting many data points across a variety of land covers will help inform the predictions of heat across the full study area. In data lingo, this way of selectively collecting data is called sampling, and means that we don't need to gather information from every square inch of the polygon in order to make predictions about temperature and humidity across the entire area. You will be sampling the set of land covers in your polygon by transporting data collection equipment along pre-planned routes or traverses over 3 individual hours throughout the day. To help in this task, you may serve as a driver, navigator, or bicyclist. If driving, you'll be paired into teams of 2 people, 1 driver and 1 navigator. Navigators will help the driver travel safely by directing turn-by-turn directions along the route. Drivers and navigators are welcome to switch roles between morning, afternoon, and evening routes. Bicyclists, on the other hand, are asked to memorize their route ahead of time or plan stops to check their map, as navigating and bicycling at the same time is advised against for the sake of safety. Bicyclists are also asked to take special care of their health as they'll be outside exercising in hot weather. More on that later. Across all these volunteer roles is the responsibility to be safe and adaptive while traversing your routes. For an assortment of reasons, you may need to stray from your plan while driving or bicycling. We will discuss how to handle these adjustments later, though want to emphasize the importance of being flexible when needed throughout the campaign. Whether driving, navigating, or bicycling, your campaign organizer will reach out to you after this training to assign polygons and driving routes, as well as to coordinate teams of drivers and navigators. If you have the extra time, you might practice driving or bicycling your route prior to campaign day to familiarize yourself with the turns and traffic patterns. After this training, you'll also need to sign the Heat Watch volunteer waiver in order to participate. Step 2. Activate. In this step, your organizer will confirm the date of the campaign and coordinate when and where you can pick up your equipment. As your tentative campaign date approaches, your organizer will be paying close attention to the weather forecast and keeping an eye out for the ideal high heat, clear skies day. Once this is determined, they'll send out an email confirming the date or advising backup plans, as well as advising a time and location for you to pick up your equipment. Your equipment package will consist of several items: your data collection unit, a charging cable, a wall adapter, and a car adapter. Because our process relies on reuse, all of these materials are required to be returned to your organizer in a timely fashion after completion of your campaign. The package also contains a bumper magnet to be affixed to your rear bumper, letting other drivers know that you are on an important mission for science. If you plan to keep thinking like a climate researcher, you are welcome to keep the bumper magnet as a token of our appreciation. Otherwise, please return the magnet to your organizer along with the rest of your equipment after the campaign. Now we'll learn about how to install and operate your data collection equipment. The equipment is made up of a temperature and humidity sensor attached to a neck that houses the data transfer wires and the body containing the battery and data storage. The equipment should be assembled, sterilized, and charged when you pick it up. Once you've arrived at the beginning of your route and are parked in a safe spot, turn on the sensor and wait for the blinking green light to turn solid. This is how you know if the GPS is tracking. If it takes more than 10 minutes, move to another location and try again. With the sensor set, roll down your passenger side window, fit the window into the slot of the device, and roll up the window until the device feels stable and secure. Keep your window rolled up for the duration of your route. A blinking red light indicates 30 minutes of battery life remaining, and a solid light indicates 5 minutes remaining. If your sensor needs charging, simply plug it into the car charger provided. Step 3. Execute. It's campaign day. On the designated campaign day, you'll be driving with the equipment along your same route 3 times, typically 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., and 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. These times are generally seen to exhibit the most consistent weather of all daylight hours. Here is the general schedule for campaign day. At least 15 minutes prior to the first traverse, arrive to the starting point of your route, park in a safe location, and turn on and install your data collection equipment. At the top of the hour, begin to follow your route. Our software will later remove any data collected before the start of the hour, so there's no advantage to getting a head start. In order for equipment to make the most accurate measurements, vehicles should be moving under 35 miles per hour. All driving routes are designed to avoid highways and fast-moving roads, but if you find yourself on a road with a higher speed limit than 35 miles an hour, you may try driving in the right lane or turning on your hazard lights to indicate you are intentionally moving slowly. Driving safely is the most important, so if you need to move with the flow of traffic, please do so. Conversely, if you hit traffic and slow down, that's okay too. Also, look for and be sure to avoid low-hanging tree branches or other obstacles that might catch or knock the equipment from its position. Remember to never roll down the window while moving. It may be tempting for the navigator to take a picture out the window, but equipment can easily fall and be damaged if not secured properly at moving speeds. If you find a part of your route is blocked or has a designated detour, do your best to get back on track when you can, and follow the same path in your remaining routes. Again, your safety is most important, and more likely than not, you will be collecting usable data that will sufficiently describe your polygon's temperature distribution. If you finish the planned route early, you can continue to drive within your polygon until the end of the hour, though do try to avoid repeating parts of your route or crossing over locations you've already visited. If there is the unlikely event of rainfall or any form of precipitation during your traverse, you should immediately pull over and bring the equipment inside the vehicle, or inside a bag if you are on a bicycle. If bicycling, be sure to monitor and take care of your health by drinking plenty of water, wearing sunscreen, and stopping to rest as needed. A full list of health considerations for bicyclists is available in your electronic volunteer folder. At the end of the hour, pull over at a safe location and uninstall the equipment. Once you're fully stopped, remove the device and store it in a cool, dry place, and plug into a charger if necessary. The equipment's battery life is roughly 10 hours on a single charge, and needs just 1 hour of charging to be fully restored. Repeat the above process for the afternoon and evening traverses in the same manner. After the last traverse, or on the following day, please return all equipment at the time and location designated by your organizer. Again, you are welcome to keep the bumper magnet if you would like to. If anything unexpected occurs during your traverse, like issues with the equipment, mishaps with the timing of your traverse, or rain, please be sure to convey these notes to your local organizer, who will provide a report to the data analysts. For any issues on the day of your campaign regarding equipment, technical issues, scheduling, or logistics, reach out to your campaign organizer directly by phone. Way to go! You've just served as an integral part in better understanding and preparing against extreme heat in your city. Step 4. Follow-up. The last step in your role is to engage with the results of your campaign. After your equipment is received, CAPA will begin analyzing the many tens or even hundreds of thousands of measurements collected by campaign volunteers. They will produce traverse point maps for each of the 3 campaign hours, such as these, showing the hotter and cooler points along your route amongst the other routes driven by your fellow volunteers. Analysts will also create area-wide predictive surface models for each of the 3 campaign hours, as seen here. CAPA will share the results and summary of the campaign directly with your organizer, who will then plan the release of results to media outlets and the volunteer team, typically 6 to 8 weeks following the day of the campaign. Taking a look at the maps of your traverse points and the predictive area-wide surfaces, you might consider, did the places I expected to be particularly hot show up as so? Were cooler spots as expected? What surprises did you see? And do you have any guesses as to why they might appear as warmer or cooler? Jot down your answers to these questions to share with your team. Once you've had the time to review the outputs and reflect, please take a few minutes to share your experiences, what you learned, and suggest ways for us to improve the Heat Watch program with us in our feedback survey. You are also encouraged to take photos throughout the campaign and share your Heat Watch experience on social media. You can engage with the CAPA team by tagging the program's Instagram or tweet us. If you're not on social media, you can upload photos directly to the electronic photos folder. We love to hear about your experiences, from your initial expectations of how heat is distributed in your city, to action shots during data collection, to reactions of seeing the results used in building resilience and climate adaptation. You can also use social media to keep track of Heat Watch programs and results in other cities around the US and world. As you're considering ways to use the information, the organizing team will be working with the CAPA team to further explore the data and implement the information into resilience efforts. Stay tuned for the opportunity to participate in future campaigns in your area, as your city team may be interested in tracking trends in heat over time. Here are your next steps as a campaign volunteer. These can also be found in your electronic folder. Complete the knowledge check found in the volunteer folder. This should only take 5 to 10 minutes maximum. Sign the electronic volunteer waiver. Your organizer will contact you to assign your polygon and driving route. Practice driving your route and review campaign materials, including rewatching this video as needed and reviewing volunteer facts. Pick up or receive your equipment at the time and location to be designated by your organizer. Confirm your availability once your campaign day is confirmed by your organizer. Arrive to starting point 15 minutes prior to your morning route on campaign day, and return 15 minutes before your afternoon and evening routes as well. Turn on and install your data collection equipment, waiting for a solid green light. Don't roll your window up or down until you've safely parked at the end of your hour. Drive or bicycle the same route at 3 designated times throughout the day. Return all equipment to the organizer and report any incidences. Participate in follow-up activities, like posting on social media and following future campaigns. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to your organizer through the contact information they've provided. Thank you so much for spending the time to learn about your important role as a volunteer data collector on this campaign. We couldn't do this without you.
Right. So 2 quick things that I want to note before we move on. So the bicycling option is not being offered here for our campaign, just due to the higher levels of heat we experience than other cities that are doing this. We want to make sure that all of our volunteers are safe during this process. So again, the bicycling option won't be offered. And then also, it's not noted in the video, but you'll need to know this for the quiz. At the end of your route, turn off your sensor. Again, you'll need to know that for the knowledge check quiz. All right, so we have a few more slides to get through here before we open it up for the Q&A. And we're gonna focus just on our campaign. So we're gonna talk through the logistics of how things are gonna work here and what volunteering is going to entail. So first, we're looking at Saturday, August 6th as our campaign date, but this is largely contingent on the weather. So certain weather conditions need to be met to successfully run a campaign. We need it to be hot in for our region. We're hoping to do it on a day that gets to 105. We also need clear skies, minimal cloud cover, and low to no wind. And to be completely honest, at this point, the weather is looking a little iffy for August 6th, but we have been and are continuing to work with the National Weather Service, Las Vegas office, and according to them, it's still too early to tell exactly what it's going to look like at this point on August 6th. But they are confident that by early next week, we'll have a pretty good idea. So by Monday or Tuesday, we will be making kind of a final call regarding August 6th, and we'll be sure to communicate all of that with you. If we do have to move off of the August 6th date, we'll be targeting the following Saturday, August 13th. But we'll be sure to keep you all updated as we get more information. A lot of this was covered during the video, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but whenever it is that we do run our campaign, we'll be relying on our volunteer teams to drive the pre-mapped routes with the temperature sensors mounted to their cars at 3 different times on that single day, from 6 to 7 a.m., 3 to 4 p.m., and then 7 to 8 p.m. And for each shift that's completed, both the driver and the navigator will receive a $30 Visa gift card to, help cover the cost of gas and the mileage that's used, and to provide a little bit of compensation for your time. We'll also have other giveaways. So I believe the county's Department of Environment and Sustainability is going to be providing desktop fans and sunscreen and car sunshades. We'll also have snacks and refreshments available. It looks like we are going to have some great pizza from Marsigliano's available during the final shift at the campaign hubs, when we expect everyone to be completing their final route and returning their sensors and equipment. So that'll be a great way to kind of close things off, hopefully. So for our region, we have a total of 28 routes that are going to need to be driven, and there's kind of a sampling below of a handful of them. Each route is roughly 15 to 20 miles from point A to point B, and should take somewhere around 45 minutes to an hour to complete once. So Route 16 is just being shown as an example on the screen here. I measured the distance. I believe it's roughly 18 or 19 miles from point A to point B. And you can kind of see why both a driver and a navigator are required. These aren't, simple routes that folks will be driving. They cover a bunch of different place types. They will go through neighborhoods and commercial centers and by parks and schools. So navigators are an important part of this process. And Almendra, I will turn it over to you for these next few.
Thank you, Paul. For the day of, sorry, is there some feedback, Paul?
I'm not getting any.
Okay. So for the day of the campaign, sorry, I just saw in the chat there's an echo.
There's feedback.
Do you want me to just handle these or try and handle them? you want me to just try and jump in and cover these, Almendra? Okay, let me know if you you figure out the feedback.
I'm not sure why it's doing this. Sorry.
Are you all still getting feedback from Almendra? Yeah, okay. All right, let's see if I can cover these then. So we have 2 volunteer hubs that that will be staffing during the campaign day. So the first is the Get Outdoors Nevada office, and that is at Pecos and Charleston, roughly, correct? Yes, okay. So that's the one kind of on the eastern side of town, and then the REI in Boca Park is going to be the second campaign hub. That is off of Rampart and Charleston. We tried to pick 2 centralized locations, both that were pretty easily accessible by most of the major freeways and major arterials. And so these hubs will be staffed at all during all shifts. So again, from 6 to 7 a.m., 3 to 4 p.m., and 6 to 7 p.m. We will have staff there, and they'll also be staffed before and after as well. These hubs will also be where there are refreshments and all the giveaways and the gift card distribution. And staff at the hubs will also be available for phone calls and troubleshooting during these shifts. I hope I covered everything, Almendra. Yes? Okay. So equipment pickup. So for the teams that are selected, you'll have 2 options for picking up your equipment. Option 1 is the day before the campaign at the Get Outdoors Nevada office between 3 and 6 p.m. So again, if we're looking at Saturday, August 6th and keeping our fingers crossed, the day before, Friday, August 5th, you'll be able to pick up your equipment at the Get Outdoors Nevada office between 3 and 6 p.m. If you can't make that time, the morning of the campaign, we'll have all the equipment available at both of the hubs at 5:30 a.m., so before the 6 a.m. starts. And then equipment return will be at the campaign hubs following the final shift. And again, at that point, we will have some great pizza and refreshments available. It'll be a fun little party to close things out. Manager, was there anything else to touch on with this slide? Okay, I hope I covered everything. So next steps.
Do you want to try muting yourself? Okay, how's that?
Oh, okay. I'll see if I can cover this one too. Let's see. So in terms of the next steps, these are kind of what you can expect and to look out for in the very near term. So Almendra is going to be making calls to volunteer teams to confirm availability and assign routes. For the teams that are selected, again, you will need to complete the knowledge check. And we have a link to it there. Again, it's based on the video that was just played. Selected teams will also have to complete the volunteer waiver. Link is also up here. And then in the email that that was shared that promoted this training, we linked to a volunteer resources folder. So that folder also includes the knowledge check, the waiver, the video, and a bunch of other resources that will be helpful to review. And then again, early next week at the latest, we will be making a decision on August 6th, and whether it's a go or a no-go. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And we got so much interest for this project. We were blown away by how many folks were interested in volunteering. We have more people signed up than routes available, but if you're not contacted this week, know that we still could be contacting you in the event that the date moves. So we'll be including everyone on all of our updates. And if you are not selected to take part in the campaign, after the project wraps up, we're going to be hosting a report release event, a report release party, where we'll have refreshments and raffles, and we'll kind of talk through the results of the campaign. And everyone that's expressed interest in taking part in this project will be invited to attend that as well. Hopefully I did a good enough job covering those slides. Okay. I think that is all we have here. Let's go ahead and open things up for questions. Deb, maybe you can start us off with a few questions from the chat, and then if you do have a question you'd like to ask, raise your virtual hand. I think there's like an emoji button down at the bottom where you can raise your hand, and we can get through them that way.
Great, thanks, Paul. I'm also getting feedback. Okay. Still getting feedback.
I'm going to stop sharing for a second and change a setting and see if that fixes things. Okay, try now.
Okay, how's that? All right, great. So we just had a couple questions. One was, will there be gluten-free pizza?
That I can honestly say we did not think about. I can look into whether or not Marsigliano's offers a gluten-free pizza. And if they do, we will make sure we order one.
Okay, great. We had a couple questions just around timing. One of the questions was, the video said to arrive at the end of shift 15 minutes before. So can you just kind of clarify the timing and how that works?
I think it said arrive at 15 minutes before the start of a shift.
Okay. And that would be arrive to where, Paul? To your starting point for that route?
Correct. Is that the case, Joey? So have them arrive at their starting point 15 minutes prior to the start of the shift? I think you're on mute. Joey, I think you're muted.
Yep. Okay. Yes. So important to get to the route 15 minutes before the start, and get your sensor set up. Then that gives it time to get the GPS locked, and to get ready to go when the hour starts. We'll use the data that's collected between the hours. So 6 to 7 a.m., 3 to 4 p.m., 7 to 8 p.m. Anything collected outside of those hours, we won't use. If you, just to address the question here from Joni, if you finish your route, just go ahead, find a safe place to stop, and turn your sensor off, bring it inside the vehicle. Make sure you turn your sensor off before you bring it inside your vehicle, because if you're still moving or you have your air conditioning on, it'll measure the inside of your car, right? So that being said, if you finish your route, you can go ahead and stop. Get to the end of the hour, and you haven't finished your route, you can still go ahead and stop, find a safe place to pull over, because we're not going to lose data collected past that.
Great.
Thank you.
Paul, we had another question. Do we do the knowledge check? Wait, do we do the knowledge check? And then the other part of that was around, do we get a confirmation call? So maybe just clarify that piece.
So yeah, so Almendra just began reaching out to volunteers and will continue to do so over the next few days to confirm availability and assign routes for selected volunteers. Honestly, the knowledge check takes less than 5 minutes to complete. It's pretty easy to do, but it's really only required for those folks who have been selected. But with the information fresh in your mind, you may want to just go ahead and do it tonight, so it's done. But it's I guess not required if you aren't selected to drive the routes.
Okay. Joni asked a question around, just to kind of clarify when it said, she said it said both, and she's asking if you just continue to drive until the end of the hour. So I guess if you finish early, do you just turn it off then, Joey?
Yep. You finish early. If you finish your route early before the end of the hour, just go ahead and stop, turn your sensor off, and pull it inside the car.
Okay, great. We also got a question on the location of the file folder. So I don't know, Paul or Almendra, if you could kind of drop that in the chat. And so the other question is, maybe some kind of refresh on the instructions on how to complete this knowledge quiz.
Yeah, so there's a few ways you can do it. So the knowledge check, the link for it is here. So we created some shortened URL. So tinyurl.com/know, KNOW -check, CHECK. And then the volunteer resources folder is at bit.ly, so bit.ly/3ZG, capital S, capital Z. Oh, geez, I think that's an L. It might be a 1. G. So you can access them that way, but in the email that was sent out that included all the information on this training and how to access it, there were links to all of this as well. So the knowledge check, the waiver, the resource folder were all linked in the email that went out.
Okay, and I had a couple of questions, Paul, around kind of how the contacting works. One is when the call comes in, is it showing up on caller ID? And the other question is it possible to contact by phone and email in case there's a missed phone call, the person could grab it, the email?
Yeah, I'll jump on that one, Paul. Absolutely. So today was kind of the first day where I was going down the contact list. We prioritize teams of 2. So those that submitted volunteer interest form, that driver navigator, and kind of as I make my way through those calls and talk about the different route options, I've left a few messages and I will follow up with emails as well.
That's a great point, Amandra. So we're prioritizing folks who signed up with the driver and the navigator, and then who were available to do all 3 shifts. If you signed up without a navigator, you can go back into the interest form and just submit another entry if you do have a navigator, and we can take a look at it that way too.
I'm just seeing one more question from Irving. It was a question around the return. So my understanding is that you return the sensor at the end of your last shift. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. You return the sensor at the end of your last shift at one of the 2 campaign hubs. So either the Get Outdoors Nevada office or the REI location at Boca Park, and both of those will be staffed and ready to do the equipment return.
Okay, let's see here. There's one more question. Paul, I think maybe it's a question on the, not sure what this is regarding. Go back to what to add your partner?
The volunteer interest form. So I'm assuming that's how all of you ended up being on a list, and that's how we contacted you. So there was on our project webpage, let me pull it up here. So on our project webpage, which is rtcsnv.com/heatmap, I'm assuming most of you filled out the volunteer interest form that was linked here. It's linked a few other places on the page with the navy blue background. This is what we're referring to. So this is where you put your name, your email address, and then your navigator's contact information as well.
There's another question around kind of the selection process. We have a question. We signed up just for the afternoon shift, but now they understand that they must do all 3 shifts. So can you kind of clarify how the prioritization is happening?
Yeah, so we're prioritizing folks who can do all 3 shifts just because of all of the logistics involved. You know, there are 28 routes that have to be driven 3 times. There's a lot of equipment involved, so we're prioritizing folks who can handle all 3. And you know, we understand that that's a big commitment, and not everyone can do it. In the event that we can't find enough teams to do all 28 routes and handle all 3 shifts, we will be reaching out to folks who can handle you know, 1 or 2 routes. But again, the priority is going to be given to folks who can do all 3 routes.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add that, you know, as everyone's receiving new information, we recognize that, you know, you might feel like you didn't have an opportunity to pick a navigator or another driver or sign up for all routes. And certainly the screen right now that has my contact information, I am happy to address your concerns and questions. So feel free to shoot me an email and we can kind of go over some of the routes that are available, and I can put you on a list so that I can contact you. You know, maybe you have a specific question that I can address right away versus waiting till I get to the end of the list.
And we do, for those who either don't want to be a driver or navigator, or can't be a driver or navigator, or can't take part in the campaign from start to finish, you know, we want to engage as many folks as possible. So we're looking for volunteers to help out at the hubs. CAPA is also going to be sending us these really cool thermal cameras that we can give out to folks to take some thermal photos that we can use. So there are other opportunities to engage if you can't or aren't selected to be driving the routes.
We have another kind of technical question. Can the equipment be installed on a rear window?
That's a question for Joey.
Rear window, as in instead of like your front row seats or back row seats?
Yeah, that's how I'm reading it.
I would say put it on the passenger front side for consistency, and also that's where your navigator is going to sit. So they'll want to, you know, be able to manage it on and off and the lights. So front right passenger side is where the sensor should go.
Oh, and I'm sorry, they just clarified they were thinking about the back seat.
Yeah, so yeah, front passenger side.
Okay, I think I've hit all the questions. If not, if anyone wants to just kind of unmute and throw it out, feel free.
I'm seeing a hand raise. It looks like Clifton.
Yeah, but I got out of this and then go.
Let me unmute you, Clifton, if you're not able to do so. Give me 1 second. Okay, I just sent you a request to unmute.
Testing 1, 2.
Yep.
All right, loud and clear. Weather conditions, of course, I may not drive on the same street every day, but if there's flash flood come through on this particular street and it can't go through that route, pretty much, I guess that ends the route. That's the question?
Yeah, so if we do end up getting rain, that's that's not going to be ideal for us. So we're definitely trying to pick a day where there's a very low chance of rain. If we do get rain, we will ask all of the volunteers to kind of stop their routes, pull over, pull their sensors in, and make sure that they're in a safe spot. But the weather conditions are the tricky part of this, and we are we're trying not to leave anything to chance. So if there is a probability of rain, we will probably not schedule the campaign to run on that day.
Oh, okay.
Well, I just got a question around notification. So will notice also be given if we are not selected? And what's the timing on that?
So we were not planning on sending out notifications for folks not selected, only because of the kind of fluid nature of the campaign day. Again, we're trying to move forward with August 6th, but we likely won't know whether or not we can run the August 6th campaign until like Monday or Tuesday of next week. So we don't want to tell people, no, you haven't been selected. If there's a chance, we might have to move it the following Saturday and have to contact a new set of folks because availabilities have changed. But I guess and Almendra, correct me if I'm wrong here, it might be safe to assume if you haven't heard from anyone by like Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, and we're in fact going to be running the campaign then you likely weren't selected to take part in the August 6th campaign.
Yeah, that would be accurate. I would say if you haven't heard from me by Wednesday of next week, we're holding on to your contact info as either a backup team or, like you said, if the date shifts. And again, you're welcome to email me at any point and I can let you know where we are on the process. I'm 100% okay with that.
Any other questions? Feel free to unmute or raise your hand.
Paul, there's another one from Melissa. Do both pilot and navigator need to sign the waiver?
Yes, both the driver and the navigator have to sign the waiver. Let me really quickly pull up the email to show you where all that information is linked. Sure, this is making for great content. I'm just looking through my inbox for an email. Let me know if there are any other questions we can answer while I find this email.
Yeah, Paul, there's one actually. So Sammy asked, I missed the first few minutes. How and when am I going to be able to review the material? So can you share where we can find that?
Yeah, so the entire the entire training is being recorded. So we will post the recording on the project webpage, which is rtcsnv.com/heatmap. So you'll be able to view it from start to finish there. And then in this email that I am hunting for, there is a folder with all of the documents that need to be completed. So the waiver, the knowledge check, the video, it should be the email that you all received with the link to this meeting in it too. So there were links to all of those documents.
And, Paul, one other question came in. So when you're completing the knowledge check, this person, David, ended up with a score of 80 out of 160 since the form counted both English and Spanish. So I'm not sure who should respond to that one.
Yeah, great question. And we actually had some folks reach out about that. So yeah, don't worry about an 80 out of 160 because it is taking the Spanish into account. If you score an 80, that's all you need to kind of pass the knowledge check. Is that accurate, Joey?
That's right. Yeah, we got 80 points for the English version, 80 points for the Spanish version. You don't have to take them. One of you.
Yeah, so 80 points is all you're required to get. And here's that email that includes all the links. So the volunteer resources folder is linked here. The knowledge check is linked here. The project webpage is linked here. And then again, the knowledge check and the release are again linked here. So this should have been the email that you received on Friday of last week, and then it was sent out as a reminder on Tuesday, I believe. And I know we're over on time. Feel free to jump off if you need to. I'm happy to stay on to answer any more questions, but yeah, feel free to jump off if you need to.
Paul, there's just a couple more if folks might stay, if anyone's staying on. The next one was, does the navigator have to be 18?
No. And Almendra, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, no, just over the age of 12 and able to pass the knowledge test.
And they should be able to provide navigational directions as well.
Thank you.
And we do, if you haven't seen our project webpage, take a look at it. Let me zoom in a bit. So this is our project webpage. If you scroll down, there are 2 FAQ sections. So there are a lot of answers to some of these questions and even some that haven't been asked on our project page. So if you haven't looked at the project webpage, definitely check it out. There's an FAQ section specific to our campaign, and then another FAQ section that is more generally about this Heat Island mapping campaign and Heat Islands. And again, the project webpage is on your screen here. It's at the bottom, rtcsnv.com/heatmap.
Just another question just about the date change. So if someone has to, if the date shifts to the next week, then for this person, Joni, she would have a navigator. So how would that work?
So for the 6th, she doesn't have a navigator, but if it moves to the 13th, she will.
Yes.
That might be a circumstance in which it might be easiest just to reach out to Almendra, either give her a call or shoot her an email and let her know.
Yes. Yeah, Joni, give me your, shoot me an email, and that way I have you, with a little star, and you're my go-to should the date change.
These are all great questions, by the way.
I think I'm through all the questions, but again, if I miss someone, feel free to unmute or raise your hand.
Yeah, our contact information is up on the screen here. For any questions related to volunteering or kind of day of logistics, reach out to Almendra, and then reach out to me if you have any questions about the campaign generally or more of the kind of technical side of the project. And with that, I want to, again, thank you all for joining today and for your interest in this project. We had a great turnout. Definitely reach out to us if you have any questions, and we will be providing you with information here over the next week as we sort things out with the weather and the project campaign day.
Thanks, Dave.
All
I just
right.
seeing the comments.
Everyone, good night.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right, I'm gonna copy and paste the chat box. Deb, would you mind doing the same so we have
Yeah,
that?
I was
Kevin's
hoping
name?
you didn't shut it down.
Yeah, I also wanted to see if we could get Irving's last name. I just wanted to confirm that he's on my volunteer list. Irving, are you still in the room? Oh, no, he popped off.
Looks like I'm searching the chat. Looks like Irvin Novak.
Oh, good. Okay. I couldn't see anything. That's perfect. He is the Irving on my list. Okay.
Great. Let me stop the recording here.
Oh, I'm still copying the chat, so I might need a minute here.
Okay.
Scrolling and scrolling.